Welcome to Let Me Know How It Is, a podcast about all things geek. We're spotlighting the classic Coen Brothers film, Miller's Crossing, today. If you're new to the show, welcome. Thanks for being here. We release new episodes every Wednesday. Quick reminder, you can give us some topic suggestions in the comment section. Thanks for listening. All right, Spotlight episode tonight, guys. Today we have selected the movie that was released 30 years ago this week, the Coen Brothers film, Miller's Crossing. I'm Zach Slater.
I'm Frank Melman.
I'm Tommy Smithereens.
And I'm Clifton.
So, Frank, this Spotlight was kind of your baby, so why don't you set us up?
Sure. So, in 1990, the Coen Brothers, Joel and Ethan Coen, came up with Miller's Crossing. It was the fourth movie from them. Basically, they wrote it together. Ethan Coen produced it while it's directed by Joel. And it stars Gabriel Byrne, Marcia Gay Harden, Albert Finney, John Turturro, John Polito, J.E. Freeman, and Steve Buscemi. Oh, and then this is one of the things that I noticed when I was looking stuff up. It was cinematography is by Barry Sonnenfeld. It took about $10 to $14 million to make and only made $5 million at the box office.
Yeah, and I believe this was actually their last collaboration with Barry Sonnenfeld, is what I saw. So this was the last time they worked with him as their cinematographer. Yeah. Cool. All right. So, Miller's Crossing. This was my first time seeing it. As with everything on this podcast.
And it was terrible.
Yeah, it's awful.
Right.
That's the show, everybody. Now, no, I liked it a lot. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very, very cool.
Mm.
So, tell us your story, Frank. Like, when was the first time you saw this, and why do you love it so much? I
saw it back in it had to be early 90s, I would think. I think I saw it then. It was one of those things where I was on a Coen Brothers kick. I liked Blood Simple, and I thought that was a great movie. And then I watched this. I think I might have watched Barton Fink before this one, but I'm pretty sure I watched Miller's Crossing, and it's a great American gangster movie. It's a great noir type movie. The cast is really great in it. Performances are awesome. Cinematography is great. Dialogue, I love the dialogue in it. Overall, I just like a good gangster movie with a fair amount of thought put into it. That's one thing I always like about the Coen Brothers movies is you can tell there's more going on than just what's on the page. So it's one of those things where I just think that it's top to bottom. It's a much better movie than I thought it got credit for at the time. And, I love it. I think it's a great movie.
A lot of people credit that to when it came out.
Mm.
It came out within a week of Goodfellas.
Oh, no kidding.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it totally eclipsed.
It's the same year as Dick Tracy also.
Yeah.
Which we also did a Spotlight episode for. Go check that one out.
It's a good double feature.
Yes.
No, what I was going to say is one of the things I read about this was I read Ebert's review.
Okay.
Roger Ebert's review back in the day when he reviewed this 30 years ago this week. And yeah, it appeared to be kind of like a lukewarm, one for him. But yeah, I disagree. I think so. I went into this really, really not knowing anything about this at all outside that it was a Coen Brothers movie and a little bit of the cast, and that was it. And what got me is that this really seems to be playing homage to a lot of the gangster films and noir movies from the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I didn't know that. And I think it's interesting when you're looking at it through that lens a bit, because you can see aspects of like the performances. I think the performances are really interesting and nuanced because they are done in a way that is slightly playing it up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are kind of, I don't want to say hamming it up. They're not hamming it up.
Right.
But they're playing it a little bit bigger than you would see a movie do. They are kind of playing it in that old Hollywood style a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a tough balance to strike to kind of play that, but also have it be like palpable for like modern audiences also.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's definitely played a lot broader. It's almost like a theater production where some of the characters are having to reach the people in the back row.
Right.
with their performances. So they're making it a little bit broader, a little bit, larger than life. But I also think there's also this feeling of it's a pretty intimate movie too, because there's only so many really, characters that are in it. And it's one of those things where I think for all the kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of larger cartoony side of some of the characters, there's also a very like grounded main character. Because you really don't get a lot of it's very, Tom, Gabriel Byrne's character doesn't really get a moment to where he basically gets out of the frame at all. Like he's kind of hedged in and doesn't seem to be bothered by anything really. While everything around him is sort of, going off, being kind of chaotic.
Right. Yeah, he is a stoic, kind of still character for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of
except for one moment towards the end.
True.
There's one moment where he kind of breaks down, but
yeah. But for most of it, it's pretty unflappable. So
yeah.
I've seen this movie like 50 times over. Every time I look at it, there's certain things that I pick up that I didn't see before. Like for one of them is it took me the 30th watch before I noticed the secretary was Frances McDermott.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Oh, really?
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. It's just the subtle stuff in there, or when they talk about certain characters, like even Mink, like how he's brought up and what's the allusion to. In fact, how certain characters, relationships with one another, they'll say certain phrases, and you'll think nothing of. But if you think about it a little bit more, the more nuanced or how directly they think about each other or even interact with one another. Like for example, what was it? The Dane? The Dane was a relationship with
Mink.
Yeah, Mink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played by Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, but it didn't come across as much. And Mink had the same relationship with John Turturro's character.
Right.
Yeah, but they didn't. Yeah, but it didn't come across as stuff.
Because
that's what I.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's a very smart movie in which it doesn't put everything out in front of you. You have to figure it out with the with almost the cast how it's occurring.
Well, it's funny because Turturro when he's there, when he first lets himself into Tom's apartment, when Bernie does, there's a point where he's talking about how twisted he is, and it's one of those things where you think, well, maybe the reason why, maybe it's just simply that Casper wants to get him because of the fact that the money, but then he says something about the fact that he's twisted and the fact that he's a degenerate, and it's sometimes it's played as it seems like Casper has an issue with the fact that he's Jewish, but really it might be but then again it's one of the things where it's kind of played like it might be the idea that there's something wrong with the fact that he's gay.
Yes.
So it's kind of and it's one of the things where when he's calling him the schmata, he's referring to him. It's an old Jewish term or an old Yiddish term that means rag or like something that's it's one of the things where I thought schmata was a slur, but
that's what I thought too.
But I guess it's one of those things where it's generally, I guess, all about the money, and I guess because it's never really portrayed. I mean, it doesn't. I didn't remember or see a part where Casper really knew that the dean was in any kind of relationship with Mink. Like it's not like it's spelled, like you said, it's not really spelled out.
No,
it's not. No, they just say that's the Dane's boy. That's all they say.
Right. Yeah. It's not even a big thing, and you would especially
he vehemently defends him early in the opening scene of the film.
Yes.
When they accuse him of being the rat on the fixes.
Right.
Right.
And I think he steps in and is like, no, it's not him.
Right.
Makes Eddie's Dane's boy. Yeah,
it is something that I was expecting to be said on the nose later in the film.
Right.
Right. And it was something that I picked up on, but now looking at the whole movie as a whole, like it makes me go like, of course that they haven't done it right, because this is, you guys all know, like I'm a big noir guy. I love that stuff and everything. And so one of the interesting aspects of the genre is that, when these noir movies were being made in the 40s, they were operating under the production code in Hollywood still, right?
Right.
And for anybody who doesn't know, the production code was basically, it was a set of guidelines that all Hollywood movies had to abide by, right? In the name of like moral decency, right? So it was like, so there were things like there was no sexual relations outside of marriage, right? All criminal action had to be punished, that sort of thing, right? And so one of the cool things about noir is the way that they got around the code by hinting at things. They would like subvert aspects of it with little like visual cues, and basically just hinting at things without outright saying it. So the fact that they're alluding to the Dane and mink together and done in this way is completely like a homage to that sort of thing from the 40s.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't even think about it.
Right?
I didn't know that at all. I mean, I think I'd heard about the code, but I didn't think about it in terms of that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, like I didn't. It's again, it's a funny thing. Like being as into noir as I am, I'm surprised that this movie doesn't come up more.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised too.
You know, yeah, because I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, outside of the visuals, right? Because it's not. When you think of noir, like you think of the stark, shadowy contrast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the interesting thing with this movie is, I believe that they don't think that works in color. That's me.
Okay.
I didn't read that anywhere. I mean, that's just my opinion. I believe that the stark noir filmmaking sensibility doesn't work as well in color because there's less contrast, obviously, right? It's less striking. It doesn't stand out as much. And so I think that really the only time that you get a try at it is at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I think that they would try, like, I don't think that they got the guts to really try it until later. Right? When they made, oh God, what's the name of it? The Man Who Knew Too Much.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right? I'm getting the title wrong. Clifton, help me.
I don't know which one you're talking about. There's the man who wasn't there.
The Billy Bob Thornton one.
The Man Who Wasn't There?
Yeah.
Was it The Man Who Wasn't There? Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. That's it.
That's the one where they were like, they actually like tried to just straight up do noir, like, complete top to bottom, anyway.
But no, it's interesting because I read an anecdote about Sonnenfeld. And they said that at one point, the scenes that they show, I guess the scenes when they went outside when they go to Miller's Crossing, basically, the two scenes when they go to Miller's Crossing, that he had shot on a different kind of film because he knew it would give it more, I believe he said contrast, but I'm not certain. But he said that he did it, and then he did some saturation, and he told the Coens that they needed to shoot it on an overcast day because he didn't want it to be, he wanted to get a certain look for that particular scene when they were out there. So that's interesting that you mentioned the whole thing about, about the look, because that's one thing where, the other thing I noticed about the look is a lot of scenes are done, for lack of a better term, they're widescreen, but they're widescreen like in a room or a building or a setting. Like it's not like there's a scene early on when I think it's when the Dane comes to see Tom and Myrna's there, and he's looking, Leo. I'm sorry, when Leo's looking for him, and goes to the apartment, and he said that there's a part where he goes to leave, and it looks like a really big, like the room itself, the apartment looks huge, and it's also that way when and it might just be Leo's character now that I'm thinking about it, but in the scene where the guys put the hit on Leo at his house and burst in with the Tommy guns.
Great scene.
It might be one of my favorite scenes in all of the movies I've ever seen. That particular scene, because
I thought so when I was watching. I'm like, this is one of the reasons Frank loves this movie.
Oh, I love it.
I just like, he knows, he loves this scene. I know it.
Oh, I do. It's one. I mean, it's one of my favorites. It's just like Albert Finney's, the way he plays it and his demeanor as Leo. But in that scene, it's really widescreen. But it's one of those things where it just looks, again, it's really kind of, you get a lot of I guess, shot in the frame, for lack of a better term, or scenery in the frame. It seems like it doesn't seem like, especially in that scene and like others. I think it's the same one when the Dane goes to find Myrna. Same thing where when he kills the two guys in her apartment. Again, it looks like it's a much bigger play. You get a much bigger feel for the room than you normally would in a movie. But yeah, if we're gonna switch into that scene, yeah, Tommy will tell you how much I love that scene.
Oh man, you quote that incessantly.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And which to me is ironic because that's not the most quoted scene in the movie.
Right.
The most quoted scene in the movie is John Turturro, which is my favorite scene. In which they take him out to kill him, and he's begging and pleading. People will quote that without even seeing the movie.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's great.
Oh my
in that
gosh.
Scene.
Yeah.
But no, when Albert Finney goes to the bed and realizes something's up. And then,
he sees the smoke.
See the smoke, and then and knows something's going on, and he takes out those two dudes, and then grabs the other machine gun and basically fires that gun into that other dude about 60 times, probably.
Oh, he's literally dancing with bullets running through him. Yeah.
And then casually, the guys in the car casually rolled out the street, and he just walks out and just walking along. It's so good. It's just the best. because he's just again, and then there's the follow up line that even as if the scene needed a cosigner. There's a scene with the guy that says, "Oh yeah, the old man was always a master with the Thompson."
With the Thompson, yeah, like it's nothing. Well, I like the fact that he's so stoic and strong, trying to kill those two people. His house is literally burning to the ground,
right,
and he doesn't give two F's about it.
No,
like he casually walks out, doesn't even think of putting the fire out or telling anybody to get out.
No,
he's insistent on killing these two people who have conspired to try and kill him.
Yeah, it's great. So good.
Yeah, you love that.
I love
that one.
Yeah, I love that bit. Oh, it's so good. Again, it might be one of my if I had to pick a favorite scene in movies of all the movies I've ever seen, that would probably make the top 3.
And then the music playing in the background where no words are said the whole time.
Right.
It's just that the opera music that's playing that he goes to bed.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking of Spectacular Spider-Man. Watching this scene a little bit too. I was wondering, I'm like if this is what inspired that fight with against Tombstone in the sewers when everybody's at the opera. It's
could be, but no, I if we're just talking like great scenes, the scene I agree with Tommy. The scene where he takes Turo out to Miller's Crossing and he's begging, and it's one of those moments where you think, oh well, maybe Tom's got a heart after all,
right?
Yes,
because again, it's one of those things where I love, an earlier scene when Myrna tells him, I've never seen anyone. What's his line about being a son of a bitch? I think I wrote it down. It's a line about never seen anyone. Where is it? I never met anyone who made being a son of a bitch such a point of pride.
Yeah,
it's a good line.
Oh, yeah, it's a great line. Yeah, it's a great line, but it sums up his character. It sums up his character so well.
So every time even when John Polito's talking to him, like when John Polito's giving him the offer in his own thing, he said, "Let me think about it." He likes to think about it. he just keep giving me the eye hat and all that stuff. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's just one of those things where it speaks so well to his character, and if we're talking about the hi hat, that's kind of a segue to something that I noticed was there's a lot of hat imagery and a lot of hat talk in this movie. A boatload.
I was gonna say, there's a thesis waiting to be written.
Yeah,
about hats as the imagery and the symbolic imagery in this movie.
Well, because like the first thing is like when Casper's there with Leo and talking about the fact that he wants to move against Bernie, and Leo tells him, "You're only as big as I let you be," which is another great line.
Yeah,
and don't you forget it. That whole thing. It's you have the talk about the hi hat early on about how he doesn't like being disrespected. But there's also the right over the credits is his hat, Tom's dream of the hat blowing along, and then there's the scene where he tells Myrna about the dream and she thinks it turns into something else that he was chasing. It's like, no, it's not. It's a hat. There's nothing more foolish than a man chasing after his hat.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, I was reading something too, where I think every time a character dies, they lose their hat. Either lose their hat like right before or during it.
Right.
Right.
Sure.
Or their toupee.
Yeah. Right. Or the two. Yeah. Good point. That's a great shot too.
Yeah. Oh,
it's such a great shot. Then played off of Tom, who loses his hat constantly, but he's always able to put it back on.
Yeah. Well, even like when Mink first comes in the scene when he goes to see Leo at the club, Mink says to him, "Oh, Tom, you got your hat back."
Yeah, because Myrna had it. Yeah.
Right. And it's one of those things where I wonder, like, does Mink know that at that point, does Mink know that Myrna and Tom have been getting together because, they were all the game together, right? That's why he lost his hat.
Yeah.
Because he bet.
Right. Yeah.
But even like when the Dane takes Tom out to Miller's Crossing and they're about, like, when Tom, gets sick, throws up, he right before, they think Tom's done, he takes his hat and like frisbee tosses it out in the woods.
Right. Yeah, it gets rid of it. Yeah.
So, but no, there's like I said, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, and I agree. There's a thesis to be, because I think it's one of those things where I think when I'm thinking of the overarching themes of the movie, one of the things is, there's so much information that Tom has to keep straight and keep to himself, keep it under your hat. That I wonder if that's part of it too.
Yeah, definitely. So this is my question then about the scene where he lets Bernie go. Right. Great scene. Great scene where, he's walking Bernie out into the woods and the expectation is that, there's two hoods waiting for him, and he has to kill him right there, right? To show them that like he's good with Casper's gang now, right?
He's one of them.
So that being said, so the question is does Tom know at that moment that Bernie's gonna double cross him?
Like he plans it?
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like is because he sees all the angles, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So is that a play for him where he's like, okay, like this has benefit for me down the road, so I'm going to let him go here. I know that he's going to end up double crossing me later, right? And that's going to play completely to my favor down the road, right?
For me, I think it's just at that point he's with Werner. So I guess he doesn't really I guess he's being closely tied to her after the falling out with
Leo,
with his boy.
You mean Myrna? You mean
Leo.
Myrna?
Yeah,
Werner.
Werner.
Yeah.
Okay.
At that point, he's fine letting him go because he thinks that he's keeping close to her. That's my opinion, at least.
Okay.
But after a certain point, when he shows back up, all bets are off because it shows what Casper's been talking about the whole time and how he has no ethics. He'll do whatever he needs to do regardless of how other people feel, including Werner. Like that one point where he talks down about Werner and it's just like, she thinks highly of you. Well, what you going to do? She's family, Right. He's such a jerk. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. But that's my only argument towards what you're thinking. Only because there's so many allegiances that change in that movie that certain people protect other people depending on who they're protecting.
Right. Well, no, I'm just asking. That's not what I think about the scene necessarily.
Okay.
I'm just putting it out there just because I thought it would be an interesting question. Because it could be argued either way.
Well, I think it's not a bad way to look at it because it's also one of those things where Tom is a gambler and he's a terrible gambler.
Yeah.
Very
that's
true.
another way.
He has the worst luck, and he also he just bets. The scene that I love is one where he's coming out of the apartment. You got any money?
Yeah.
No. A little bit about there's no hard feelings. He's like, of course not.
Of course not.
Yeah, they just work you over like Rocky does with the veal, but it's cool.
Well, I like the one where that one guy rolls up on and say, "Hey, horses got knees." It's, I don't know, fetlocks. If I was a horse, I'll be down on my fetlocks praying you don't bet on me.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Clifton, what do you say? Do you think he knows? Do you think it's all calculated, part of the plan?
No, I mean, I think the reading is that he was doing it partly because of Verna, because of her imploring him to look out for Bernie.
For Bernie.
I think it was that, but I feel like he probably did see the other angles and realize like it could go this way and I can handle it if it does.
Okay.
Well, it's funny when watching it again, and I've seen it, I don't know how many times, but it was one of the things we're watching it again recently, in the last couple days. I had a moment, Tommy, where I thought about another movie that you and I love that now, as far as I know, Clifton may have seen it. I don't think Zach has. But it's another movie we love where a character basically has to play all the other characters against themselves. And if they play it wrong, they're going to die.
Oh, what movie is that? Sounds familiar. What is it?
Fresh.
Oh, yes.
Right? Right?
No, it's 100% Fresh. Yeah.
Isn't Fresh?
Chess moves, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Million Meals on a Million Board.
I have not seen Fresh. What is Fresh?
Oh, Fresh is a great movie.
Fresh is a movie from the mid-90s? It's Boaz Yakin.
I want to say, yeah.
Boaz Yakin's first movie, I believe, that he wrote and directed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it's this kid who basically is his sister is dating Giancarlo Esposito, who's a drug lord, right?
Specifically a heroin drug lord.
And he's got her drugged up, and he wants to get his sister out. And then he basically has to weave between all these people in the neighborhood. Something happens. I don't want to give away. You haven't seen it, but he basically him trying to weave through all the same sort of thing as like Tom trying to weave through all these people and come out alive on the other side. And if you've never seen it, it's a fantastic movie. It's another one of my favorites. I love this movie.
Yeah, you don't want to put me on Fresh. I didn't even see Fresh.
Yeah, Fresh is Fresh. It's got some other names in it. Sam Jackson's in it. Plays his dad. And it's one of the things where I don't say anything more about it, but they're very similar. And it never really occurred to me before I started watching this. I'm like, this seems very familiar. But yeah, it's just that navigation of trying to outwit everybody without getting your ass taken out to Miller's Crossing. So
yeah, it came out in '94.
Okay, there you go. So
I've never even heard of Fresh.
Yeah.
Oh, but I've got to give you Fresh. Fresh is a great small indie film with great actors and great performances.
Yeah.
And Sean Nelson plays the title character whose name is Fresh. And the last time we seen him was HBO's not The Wire, but the Corner, in which he plays the title character in there as well.
Okay. Back to Tom though.
Yes.
Really quick. So this is my next question about Tom then, right? Because he's a heartless jerk, right? And so what I think is interesting is that in the beginning of the film, right, when you have Casper, who's basically like, I'm just letting you know, like, I'm going to rub out Bernie, right? And Leo is actually like the whole point Bernie's still alive is that is that Leo is in love with Verna,
right?
Right? Who's Bernie's sister, right? What I like about that scene is that Tom in that moment is like, what do you care? Just let him rub him out. Who cares, right?
Right.
And then you find out later that Tom is with her too.
Sure.
And so in that moment, this is what I'm curious about. So is Tom just heartless in that moment and he really doesn't care about Bernie? Or is that just playing it up for Leo?
Well, no, but that's how you got to look at it. Tom never cared for Verna. He was just sleeping with her. Leo made it personal because he wanted to claim her.
Right.
And that's why they never knew about his relationship with her. And then the whole thing that he was trying to convince him that she's a grifter. Whole family full of grifters. They have grifter kids, all that mess.
Grifter grannies.
Right.
Grifter grandkids, all that stuff. So at that point, he thinks nothing of Verna at all. But the fact that his boy, who he stands tall with, is interested in her is crazy.
Right.
And then he's trying to convince her that what's the point? They're just terrible people. He has no problem dealing with terrible people. To me, Tom is the only one with the strongest ethics, second only to Leo. Everybody else is questionable.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, I think Tom just basically, it's funny to watch how easily Tom goes from Leo to Casper. Like, I mean, like it's no problem at all. And the fact that he goes from whispering in one ear to whispering in another, you know, and it's one of the other thing I love about the movie is about his character is the fact that everyone seems to know him. And there's a reason why everyone knows him, because he's got his ear to the ground for everything. I'd imagine.
Yes.
I'd imagine Tom is like the guy that, without flaunting it, knows everything about everything. Like you said, he plays he says at various times he plays the angles. I think Tom basically thinks, you know, if he gets rubbed out, he gets rubbed out. But I also think it's one of those things where if Tom's like, I changed my mind, I know how to play this so that, you know, that Bernie's okay. But I don't think that I agree with Tommy. I don't think it's got anything to do about the fact that he's got some kind of, like, she even, like, you know, says to him, you know, just say that you're jealous, or just say that you care that he's claiming me. And Tom's like, no, that's not it.
That's not it.
That's not what's going on here. So yeah, I don't really think that it's that. I think it's one of those things where if he's like, if he gets rubbed out, he gets rubbed out. If he doesn't, I think the other thing I think is interesting that Tom is basically being the Robert Duvall character from Godfather, being the consigliere, you know, the guy that tells, you know, the guy in charge what he should do, is his advisor, the consigliere, and saying, you know, no, we don't need war. Why didn't we go to war with this guy? Which I think is interesting too, because he could easily have tipped it the other way.
Yeah, but even the police commissioner says it.
Yeah,
you notice that.
Yeah,
everyone, if you notice too, everybody knows the smartest man in the room is Tom. And they always say, why is Leo making that play? Tom, you should talk to him. Yeah. Everybody refers to him to talk to Leo. And then instead of listening to them, he just says, this is what Leo wants to do, let him do. If you have any respect, you need to shut up and get in line, and we'll find somebody else. So no matter what, he still places Leo at the top of the hill, regardless of who he's with. If you notice that. If you look at the movie again, he never diminishes Leo. And in fact, when he leaves Leo, he doesn't really leave Leo. He just tells that he's sleeping with Verna. He has Leo make the decision to push him out, and it does it in front of everyone. so no one mistakes that he's out.
Right.
It's not like Tom left Leo. Leo pushed him out. And that's what makes it solid when Casper takes him up. Does that Did you get that feeling of it?
Yeah, Tom's only loyalty in the film ever is to Leo.
Yeah.
And he spells it out in the one point when he's talking to Verna, when I forget what the distinction is that she says, where she says, I thought this. And he says, no, I said we were through. That's not the same thing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Because his loyalty was still there with Leo. He was not betraying Leo, even though Leo would not have him.
Right.
Yes.
And I think at the beginning, like in his loyalty to Leo, like he thought like that was the play. Take out Bernie was the play. But Tom never took out anyone in the movie. That was not his thing. And I think that was what a lot of the reluctance is from. And somebody else points it out to him, where they're possibly several times, if I'm remembering right, where they're like, oh, getting somebody else to do your dirty work.
Yeah.
Seemed to be his go-to thing for most of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think so. I in the beginning, I do think that he's just heartless and he doesn't care. And he's just like, take Bernie out. That's the thing that makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I do think the moment at Miller's Crossing when he's walking into the forest with him and he's supposed to kill Bernie, I think in that moment, he still doesn't know what he's going to do. Right. I think that's one of the reasons why John Turturro's monologue is so long. Right. I think it's him calculating. I think it's him like running all the options in his head. If I do it right, what's the next play? If I don't do it, what's the next play? Right. I think that's what's happening there. That's how I read it anyway.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But Tommy, you brought up, I think, which is a key scene for me also, which is the moment he tells Leo that he's with Verna, right? And for me, that's a key moment in the film from the goal of like what they're trying to homage. That's the moment that this movie becomes a noir to me, right? Because there's a lot of crime movies out there. The term gets thrown around a lot, right? You see this in comic books a lot too. Like anytime there's an indie crime book and you see some comic site talking about it, they're always throwing noir around, right?
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but noir is also like a very specific kind of crime movie, crime story, right? Like you get it thrown around a lot for like Chinatown and LA Confidential, right? And I think it's because the setting does a lot of heavy lifting for it.
Right.
But those movies are really not noir. They're not. And so going back to Miller's Crossing, that what's key for that moment is that's the moment where he gets sort of tied into everything and he gets embroiled in it all, right? And now it's his own neck on the line, right? Instead of things happening all around him, now it's circling around him, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's his life turned upside down because of it.
Well, basically, to me, I see it as he takes it from Leo. He knows Leo's already embroiled in it more than he needs to be because of Verna. If he wasn't with Verna, Bernie should have died. And Casper wouldn't have made the play. But Tom knows Casper is bigger already than Leo. And he questions why you're messing with Casper. Because right now, everything's fine. But as soon as he disrespects Casper, that's when everything goes to hell. That's when everything switched up. And then when he finds the reasons that it's Verna, now he has to pull his boy away from the elements that's making him go to hell, which is Verna and Bernie. Once those two parts eliminated, he eliminates Casper, because Casper now will never go back with his hat in hand saying sorry to Leo, because that's not how it works.
Right.
Hence seals Casper's death. And the Dane, for that matter.
Yeah, how he turns Casper against the Dane is really nice. I think that's like the really
masterful.
I think it does so much heavy lifting as far as like how calculating he is and how like trustworthy he can be, right? And how it does a lot for his character. I think those moments. And John Polito's so awesome,
always
in this movie, though. I love it. I love the right, because he's nuts a little bit. right?
And calm, yeah.
And there's, you know,
get the boy Penny.
He's what's the word I'm looking for? He's an unkempt character, right?
Yes.
He's uncouth.
Yeah,
right?
very much so.
For sure. But what I also like about him, though, is that there is a slant to him that has the idea of sort of like an idealistic crook, right? Where honesty does mean something, and ethics does mean something, right? And it's just, you know, but he knows everybody around him isn't that.
Yeah. But to me, I think it's the illusion he thinks everyone's ethical when they're not. I mean, even with the whole conversation concerning a fix on a bet, which is to me unethical.
Yes, of course.
But he thinks there's certainty in it, just like with dealing with crime in the city, and then his dealings. That's ethical. It's almost laughable that he has that kind of understanding of it.
Yeah. No, that's what I love about it, though. I love that it you know, it makes sense, but it's also contradictory at the same time.
Yeah.
I really love that aspect of it. I mean, he was one of my favorites to watch in this whole movie.
After multiple viewings, my favorite is the Dane. Oh my gosh. The way he's to me, he's the only one that consistently unnerves Tom. Everyone else, Tom talks to whoever wants, whether it's Verna, Bernie, Leo, Casper, but not the Dane. The Dane will not back down to him. He's the only one that physically challenges him and almost chokes him out. You know, like he was never closer to death until dealing with the Dane, because the Dane is the one that almost killed him in the woods, if not for Bernie's smart play.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's what I like about John Polito, about Casper also, is that right, like, you know, he does have sort of a weakness for ethics and stuff like that, and so I like that. That's sort of why he sees Tom as appealing and sees him as trustworthy and sees him as you know, as quote unquote like the good one, right?
Right.
When like everything Tom does is unethical.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
See, he's a good one. See, I told you, Dane.
It's almost like he doesn't expect that that crooks are going to cheat him, which I always laugh at. I'm like, why would you think that they're not gonna do whatever they got to do to get over on you? But that's how he thinks.
It's funny because the whole movie started on the premise that he thinks somebody's messing with his good, honest, fixed fight.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That's
what he can't abide.
Yeah. Because if you can't trust the fix, what can you trust? Right. That's what he says.
Yep. Yeah. That's what he says.
Yeah. It's a layered movie. That's what I like about it, though. I like that there's sort of like many ways you can read scenes. Right. Yeah.
Well, I love how it almost comes off as a comedy. Like there's certain scenes that are just knocked down hilarious. Like when he's almost about to get beat up for not taking Casper's offer, and I forgot what his guy's name, and he's about to come hit him, and he's preparing for it, like rolling up his sleeves as if he's about to do dishes or something. Then walks up to him,
right,
and then Tom stops him, and then instead of hitting him, he hits a chair, and he's like, ow! Walks back and gets Tic Tac, and Tic Tac goes to town on him. Yeah, I was like, wow.
Yeah, that was a good scene. I like that. Yeah. I like the slowness of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, and the building up to it, and then he just hits him with the damn chair.
Yes.
Just so great.
Jesus, Tom.
Yeah, there's also the drinking game to play. Every time everyone says Jesus, Tom, you'll be a rumhead by the end of it. But no, what I also love about that scene where he hits him with the chair is right after, when he comes to after getting kicked in the face. The guy,
the police officer.
Yeah, the cop's like, we're going to be interrogating him for a while as they're tying him to a chair and beating the crap out of him.
He's like, want some of this, Tom? He's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
To town on him.
But one thing I love about the movie as a whole is the idea that it's Tom is always got the angles. The bit where he walks out of Casper's place when it gets raided and he talks to the police chief or whatever, and then the exact same thing is the reverse when they shoot up Leo's Irish club.
Yeah,
and back and
with Sam Raimi.
With Sam Raimi, right? When Sam Raimi starts kicks it all off. Yeah, I love that. Basically, it's the mirror image of the scene we watched earlier in the movie of them rearrayed. It's just the different raid of a different place.
Yeah,
yep. And when he's talking to the commissioner, they're like the frame is flipped. They're framed to the other side.
Right.
I forget which is which. They're on the left side of the frame on one scene, and then they're on the right side of the frame for the next one. I forget which is which, but yeah, I like that it's flipped.
Yeah, there's a nice symmetry to it because when he comes out of Casper's, it's on the right. When it's in Leo's, the Brothers of Aaron place, the Irish place, on the left. Mm-hmm. It's on the left.
I love how low on the totem pole that the police commissioner is.
Oh, it's great. Oh,
just as part of it. But I also like the symmetry angle that you're talking about is the moment where he walks in on Leo having a meeting with the mayor and the police commissioner, and then he walks in on Casper with the same thing.
Right. Well, what's also great about that is you see the difference between Leo and Casper's character. The fact that Leo has no problem, throwing back drinks with these guys, and Leo's drinking a soda, which always makes me laugh. That's his drink of choice. They're drinking the soda there. And then you shoot the scene with Casper and the mayor, and it's like, Casper is having a hard time, like, running things. Just how hard it is. Like, it's tough being in charge. Like, I didn't know, when I took over, it's almost like a comic book plot of like, oh my God, if I knew this was what it's going to be like when I took over Gotham City, I never would have taken over Gotham City.
Yes. Right. Pure comedy. Isn't Casper drinking a milk at that too?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Because his stomach's backing up on him.
Mm-hmm. One of the scenes that got me is when Leo's like punching the crap out of Tom and they spill out into the hallway. Right? I don't know why it chuckled me to no end. Is like when he's punching him and he drops his hat. Tom drops his hat, and then that dude bends down and picks it up for him and gives it to him. Right. Then he gets clocked again.
Again. Yeah. Or where the woman screams. Just beats him down even more.
So did anyone, speaking of just the stuff with thinking about Coen Brothers movies, did anyone see what the movie they gave up to make Miller's Crossing? They passed on.
Yeah.
I did not know that, but I saw it today.
I didn't either. Apparently they were in line, or they were a choice to make Batman '89, and then instead they made Miller's Crossing. So out there somewhere in the multiverse is a Coen Brothers Batman '89, which would be. As much as I love what we got and got Miller's Crossing, I'd still love to see a Coen Brothers Batman '89.
Oh, I would love to see a Coen Brothers Batman movie. That'd be great.
It would have probably had Sam Raimi involvement as well.
Probably.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, but question, guys, can you identify what city they're in from looking at it?
I know where it was filmed, but I noted that I was like, they don't ever tell you what city it is.
No.
Which I think is a cool. I thought was a cool tactic in her. But yeah, it was filmed in New Orleans.
Yeah, right. But I think that's exactly where the city is supposed to be because of the backdrop with all the forest and stuff.
I don't think it's supposed to be anywhere. I think it's intentional for them to not mention it at all.
Right. Well, I mean, the only thing that I noticed from watching the movie was I didn't pick up on they said the thing about the Palisades, to the point where Tom said something about going to the Palisades. And I didn't think about that because I don't really know New York all that well. But when he said the thing about, well, where are we going to go to Niagara Falls? I was like, maybe they're in New York. But that's about, and again, I was looking at just like trivia stuff about the movie. That's something they mentioned too, is that people say, yeah, that they're, it's probably New York, but it doesn't say. And then the other thing is they're kind of vague on what year it is, even though it is during Prohibition.
Yeah.
Right.
So it could be most people think it's like 1929 is when it takes place, but nobody knows for sure.
I did see that the reason that they shot it in New Orleans also was that, like, basically you got a ton of free scenery at the time. Because at the time there was like the city hadn't been like rebuilt in spots. So there was a lot of like 1920s architecture just left over.
Right. Well, the other thing that I read about them shooting in New Orleans was the fact that they had to keep producing permits and stuff for shooting. And they were like, so the cops in this are acting just like the cops would have acted in 29, hassling people and trying to, run a scam to get money. But they're like, no, we have all our permits. We're allowed to shoot here.
Did you guys see the other like production anecdote about it is like what other movie sort of like is tied to this film in a weird way?
I didn't.
So apparently
Barton Fink,
is tied, like basically writer's block on this script.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Okay.
Produced freed them up to go like, we're just going to work on something else because we're tired of thinking about this movie. So they went and wrote Barton Fink basically when they're taking a break from this film.
They wrote in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which that movie came out, I believe, the year after Miller's Crossing, I believe, right?
I'd have to look. I don't know for sure. It's pretty close.
I think it was. I might have seen it in my notes someplace.
It is. It's 1991.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
So, yeah, good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, who's everybody's favorite performance in the movie, would you say?
At first, my favorite performance was Totoro.
Mm-hmm.
Then watching it again, it's Polito. But what I have to finally come down on is Steve Buscemi, because he gets only one scene, and he spits out those lines. And at first, I thought it was crazy I spit out, but he's just nervous,
right,
about being in the open. So there's a reason why he does it, and it's frantic. So I'm loving that one scene because that's all you get from Buscemi, which leads him to be in Fargo and The Big Lebowski. Just that one scene. Yeah.
Okay, well, that and
I go Steve Buscemi.
And the scene in the phone booth, right? But that's not really. I mean, he's acting, but it's acting, over the phone.
Over the phone. Yeah. Yeah. Jesus, Tom. Yeah. He says over the phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clifton, Frank, what about you guys? Who's your favorite?
For me, it was. I'd have to go. I mean, I love Polito. I think Totoro's great, but I really love. I think Gabriel Byrne's performance is fantastic in it. I'm always great at. I mean, I'm always amazed at how well he's. The scenes, even this, like you really do. He doesn't really get. Again, when I was saying like I was saying earlier, he's kind of the same throughout the movie, but like the scene with Verna in the ladies' room is one where he kind of gets his blood up, but everything else he just sort of takes everything in stride, except for when they take him, they take him back to Miller's Crossing. But it's just from top to bottom, he's just he's kind of you can see the wheels turn in his performance, which I think is really cool. You can see like there's stuff going like one of the things people say is like you can see the stuff going on behind his eyes about his character thinking, and I just think that it's important that without him, I don't know if that whole movie works.
Right.
Who was considered for the role before him, right? William Dafoe.
Really? Okay.
Andy Garcia. Tom Sizemore.
Wow. That would have been a completely completely different movie.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. It's interesting to see who was supposed to play Verna.
Oh,
that
yeah,
was interesting too.
I did see that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Julia Roberts, right?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah.
Demi Moore, Jennifer Jason Leigh.
That's so funny.
Jennifer Jason Leigh would have been good. I don't know. I don't think the other two could have done it as well as Marcia Gay Harden did. She's really great in it too. But I think Jennifer Jason Leigh could have done it. She's a really good actress. So
cool. Clifton, who's your favorite performance?
I'm going to go with Gabriel Byrne as well, just because it was like it's an interesting challenge, I think, for him to play against all of the broader performances, and the Coen Brothers are very good at knowing how to direct the broadness without it being like too over the top. But I think I think his performance was just fascinating to see, to be the opposite, to be a contained, like controlled performance, and still have the weight to counterbalance all of the other bigger performances.
Yeah, because he's almost like the straight man
definitely
in a comedy, like in a comedy duo or a comedy scene. He's usually like he's the Bud Abbott.
I love me a good manic performance, so I'm going to go with John Polito.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, like I mean, there's not a moment if he's on screen with other people, I'm looking at him always.
Sure.
Like I just love, like, he reminded me a little bit of like the Penguin in some versions. I just like how kind of gross he is.
I almost said the same thing earlier when you were talking about him, because it was one of the things where the whole thing about being like, there's a set of ethics for being a crook, kind of the gentleman, but not gentleman aspect of his character.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think he would have been given the opportunity. I think he would have been an awesome Penguin.
Yeah. No, I think his performance just was so much fun. I just, like I said, I love the over the topness to it. He's a Muppet basically.
It's right. It's one of the few, right. But it is one of the few moments that in the movie also where Tom is shocked by something. Like there's a lot of stuff that Tom like witnessed to and like has happened to him. When Casper smacks his kid across the face, Tom has a moment of like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you think about all the stuff that he goes through, I'm like, that's the thing that sets you off. So
right.
So
yeah. But anyway, so speaking of Muppets. We're trying something new for this spotlight over here. So we were joking before the show about how basically you can make any movie with Muppets, right? Like what's the one character that you keep? What's the one real actor you keep, and then you replace everybody else with Muppets?
Yes.
Right? Am I explaining it right?
Well, yeah. Well, basically the premise is like there's I think it's a meme, but there's a meme that goes around that says, name a movie that you can replace. You can keep one actor, and then you got to replace everybody else with Muppets. So that's basically the game.
We're gonna wrap up playing that game with Miller's Crossing. So
yes.
Who's the one actor you leave surrounded by everybody else being played by Muppets?
I leave in John Turturro and replace everybody else with Muppets. Partly because John Turturro himself is a Muppet, basically.
Sure.
Right.
He could very well be just a Muppet. And and I think it would be funny to see Puppet Gabriel Byrne. I think it'd be funny to see Puppet Tom being like the straight man puppet in this world of other crazy puppets, and then encountering a human that's even crazier than all the other Muppets.
Nice. Okay. Very cool. John Turturro.
Yes.
John Turturro left standing.
Yes.
All right. Tommy, you got one?
I was going to keep Buscemi. Because
okay.
For the whole movie, you think it's a Muppet movie. And then from nowhere, you get Steve Buscemi in one scene only.
Just the human for 2 minutes?
For 2 minutes. And you're like, what?
What happened? They just couldn't get a Muppet made in time? What happened?
So my question, Tommy, is then who plays the Dane? Who's Lou's lover?
To me, it would be the
Big Bird.
If you have all Muppets, I'd have the Eagle.
Sam? Oh yeah, that's a good choice. That's a great choice.
He perfectly plays the Dane.
That's a fantastic choice.
Yes, perfectly.
Yes, I love it. I'm on. I'll watch this movie. I have mine now.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
So for me, like I said earlier, I'd keep Gabriel Byrne because I like the idea of the straight man in this. And quite frankly, I just want to see Gabriel Byrne worked over by Muppets in all those scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Just like getting pummeled with plush felt hands.
Yes.
Oh.
I want to see what's the really big one? Was it Sweetums? Sweetums the one? In the scene where he says, "You got any money?" and the guys are just working him over. I just want it to be them and I don't know the other one, but I think that'd be great to watch Gabriel Byrne try to act with Muppets and then be worked over by them. So that's my choice.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. You kind of changed my vote a little bit. You kind of. I was gonna say Marcia Gay Harden. Right? Is that her name? I keep saying
that's
right.
It. Yeah, that's
just
it.
Because I think of the Miss Piggy scene that I always like when Miss Piggy was like hitting on the human.
Right. So you want to flip it?
But yeah, so I was thinking about flipping it, but like just the visual of Gabriel Byrne just getting beat up by Muppets is so funny. And I'm like, maybe that one. Yeah, maybe.
But I have the same question, Zach, that if that's the case, who plays Tom? Which Muppet plays Tom?
Oh, what Muppet plays Tom? Okay, let me see here.
To me, Janice would play Verna. Not yet. Don't give it to Piggy. Give it to Janice.
What Muppet? Who's the blue one? Who's the blue bird with like all the feathers?
Blue bird with all the feathers.
With the unibrow?
That's Sam. That would be Sam.
That's Sam. Yeah.
You have Sam?
Sam can't play all the characters.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
I say put Scooter in there.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm about to say Scooter works.
Scooter would be good.
No, Scooter would be Turturro. Would be Bernie. And then Skeeter would be Verna.
You sure Fozzie wouldn't be Turturro?
Beaker's Turturro. Beaker's Turturro, for sure.
Just walking down Miller's Crossing. Me.
Right? Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? Just the howling, like begging for his life. Just me.
Yeah, perfect. All right. I stand corrected. You're right. That'd be perfect.
Oh, we lost our minds.
Yes.
So, yeah. Anyway. So, tell us your thoughts on Miller's Crossing in the comments. Actually, let's do it this way, because I know you've not seen it. Go see Miller's Crossing.
Yes.
Then tell us what you think in the comments.
You can also tell us which actor you would keep.
Yes, please. Oh, I kind of want to see it done now. You can also find links and examples to everything we talk about on letmeknowhowitis.com. Don't forget, you can suggest a topic for us in the comments. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help the channel to grow. And finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/letmeknowhowitis and follow us on Twitter at our show's initials, LMKHII. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.